Okay, mic is on. Let's stand for the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to Texas, one state under God, one indivisible. Thank you all very much. Good morning, Constable. We're going to go into the agenda. This is a workshop on the budget. We have all members of the court present. We have a quorum present. It's a very informal workshop. Be a lot of discussion back and forth. Constable, we're glad to see you this morning. You brought something for us to consider.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
Please.
What I gave the court, well, let's back up. Last year, y'all had this discussion about the fees that the county charges for civil process, okay? And I got into it last year, and I determined, and I was working with my commissioner, Larry Chesney, that the fees have not been changed since 2009. They still haven't been changed since 2009. 9 years of what I have to assume are increased costs, but the fee schedule has not gone up for whatever reason. I mean, past is past. There are a couple of statutes you folks need to be cognizant of when you're deciding this. Okay, now I'm not the county attorney. Y'all all know I'm an attorney, but you've got your own attorney. From my research, here are a couple of things I think you need to keep in the back of your mind while you're looking at this. First of all, the law says that every year this court, along with all other courts, must approve the fee schedule by September to take effect October 1st. Even if you don't increase it, even if you decrease it, or you just keep it the same, you still got to put it on your agenda to do. The penalty for not doing that is strong, and the penalty is if you don't do it, like I just said I believe the law is, then under the law you fall back to the comptroller's rates of 1981, and you don't want that. Okay, it's like a subpoena's like $10. It's the penalty for not doing it. Secondly, there is a statute in Texas that talks about fee schedules for civil process. And the statute says that you charge, you being the county, you charge based on cost. The problem is it doesn't define cost. Okay? There's nowhere in the statute. And I did a quick review through my legal research capabilities to see if there were any cases interpreting that statute. Now, a quick review, I couldn't find any. Okay, so it just says cost. The other thing you need to keep in mind as you're going through this, now this is a statute that I have not researched, but I was told by two other colleagues of mine that it's out there, but I'll just give you a warning, I didn't look at it, that, you know, there's kind of, in essence, there's kind of two different types of papers. There's what we call this everyday normal stuff, lawsuits, things like that, subpoenas. And then there's a thing called writs, which is really nothing more than an order from the court. We have things like writs of possession. That's where I have to go and evict people. That's what it's called. It's not called an eviction. That's what it's called. We have things called writs of attachment, which is where I have to go out and take children, literally physically take them by court order and give them to another parent or CPS or whatever. There's a whole list of writs. There's one called a writ of assistance, which I've not done yet. I think it's pretty cool. It's where these folks that go out and are hired by the banks to repo jets and airplanes. And it turns out that they can go into the justice of the peace and get a writ of assistance, and then I get that writ, and I have to go out and keep the peace. And help, I don't physically repo the airplane, but I'm there to keep the peace under a writ of assistance. I've not done one yet. In fact, there's a reality show on Discovery Channel. I think you seen it? Yeah. It's kind of cool where these guys actually go out and repo these $50 million jets.
You're wanting to do that, aren't you?
I just think this would be so cool just to do that. But anyway, my understanding, but not verified, is that when you set the price for a writ, all writs have to be the same dollar amount. Okay? think right now, I didn't bring the current fee schedule with me. I don't know if I have it in front of me. I apologize for not doing that. Do you have that?
I believe this is what was attached last year.
Well, that was okay. No, that was the sheriff doing an analysis of other counties. And let me bring that up because last year when we were here, y'all were talking about it. Our quick response was to go to other counties and see what they were charging. But that's not the law. Like I told you earlier, the law is what the counties cost in serving these papers. That's your guideline. It's not what Bexar County's doing or Goliad or Harris or wherever you want to go. It's what it cost us. Now, what I have given you folks is, and I put a lot of time in this, and it's still not quite done, but I kind of know, in fact I do know, after talking to audit on many occasions, I know what costs are in this county for the most part. I know what my guys' salaries are. I know what their health insurance is. I know what their pension costs are to you, to the county. I know what gas is, and all those things. And I took all of those, and I took them on an annual basis, and then I broke it down to a monthly basis, and then I broke it down to an hourly basis, and then I broke it down to per minute. And I mean, so that's what this little sheet does. It's still a work in but if you look on the second page, at the very bottom, $96.75, that's what I've determined, right or wrong, I think I'm right, that it costs to serve a normal paper, not a writ. Two different things, okay? And I'll explain that in just a second. Our normal papers right now, I believe, are $75. And that's your what we call citations, which are notice of a lawsuit, subpoenas, all that kind of stuff, justice of the peace losses, or any kind of lawsuit. That's our normal fee. And I've determined that paper today is costing the county $96.75. So you're looking at, roughly almost $25 increase, maybe. Now listen, I'm like everybody else. I don't like raising fees, and I don't like paying taxes. I was asked to do this by my commissioner, and we got into it, and these are the numbers I'm reporting, but I will caution the court that it's not quite done yet. And the reason it's not quite done is because one, audit may tell me that I've missed some cost in here. It's very, very possible. I know I didn't put uniforms. I'm having a difficult time getting, it's going to be pennies, but per minute. But still, it's a cost. And then I'm having in my mind, I'm looking at the time value of money, which I've always believed is a cost. And if you're not familiar with that accounting economic concept, is $1 today is worth more than $1 tomorrow. And it just extrapolates, okay? That's the time value of money. And so how you take that concept and figure it into cost, I haven't got my hands around yet, okay? But I just float that out there for you folks and for audit to think about that. So this $96 may go up a little bit, okay? Or audit just may come back to me and say, you're just dead wrong in all your numbers, and it's we don't have any increased cost. But like I said, it's been 9 years since you really looked at this fee schedule. And you're talking a lot of money over the last 9 years. Let's just take my department, because I'm the biggest paper server in town, okay, me and Precinct 1. And all the other 3 precincts don't even come close in terms of civil process papers, okay? I do on the average in Precinct 1 about 800 a month, somewhere between 700 and 1,000, just roughly 800 is an average. So if you just take $100 of paper, you got some papers right now that are 75, and you got a lot of papers that are 160. If you just take an average of $100 of paper and times that by 800 or 1,600, our 2 departments, times 12 months, look where you're at. And the difference, right now you can take $75, which is what you're charging, times me and Precinct 1 at 1,600 papers a month. Do the math and look at the difference. It adds up. It adds up, and it's not like it's a profit thing, because it's not a profit thing. It's not supposed to be. It's not meant to be, nor am I suggesting that. It is simply cost, because that's what the statute says. Now, I did do this last week. The Precinct 4 Harris County, is Constable Herman, a colleague of mine. He is the largest constable's department in the United States, 650 officers, 3 substations, huge precinct, huge operation. I called him and I said, what do you guys do with this? Do you have a formula that I can look at? Do you have a model that I can look at? Because I just started from scratch, guys. I mean, that's what I did. And as big as he is, and as sophisticated as a department he has, to give a comparison, Corpus Christi Police Department is 400 officers. He's got 650. Okay? Very sophisticated department. He didn't have a model. He just said, let's leave it up to audit. I said, I can't. I said, it's Constable Herman. I said, Mark, I can't believe that, as big as you are. And he goes, he said, Mitchell, I checked. I checked with my chief. He's got like 3 or 4 chief deputies for various divisions. He goes, I checked with my chief that runs my civil division, which has 100 officers in it, just serving civil papers. That's all they do in that division. And I even talked to his chief, Chief Key, and he said, we don't have a model. Okay? So I've tried to come up with a model to determine cost. Now, what I will do, and y'all are free to accept or reject this, or I have no pride of authorship in this. I'm just trying to help out the county. What I will do, probably in about a week, is I can, if it's okay, I can email everybody, or maybe I just go through audit, whatever, judge, just through audit. Okay. I can email a new proposed fee schedule and let y'all look at that. Now, I said this last year and it didn't happen, so in all due respect, please heed my next comment and take it seriously, because it didn't happen last year. And the comment is this: if you don't put a paper on your fee schedule, this is the law, and you don't put a charge for it, if that paper comes in and I serve it, or the sheriff serves it, you can't charge for it because it wasn't on the fee schedule. Okay? The one I proposed last year, I had every single paper known to man. But what was missing, and what I put on there but didn't get around, and I mean this in all sincerity, is I had a little catch-all phrase down there that most counties use. And it basically goes like this: any paper that is not on the schedule will be charged $100. And so if you get some weird paper that you've never seen before, you've never heard of, and because you've never heard of it or never seen it, it's not on the fee schedule, you've got that at the bottom down there, you got that catch-all provision that says, well, if it's not listed and we serve it, we're going to charge X dollars. Okay? So that's important. And I say that because 99% of the time, the stuff that the constables and the sheriff serve in this county, it's the same old stuff. Okay? It is. But I can tell you, in 30 years of practicing law, that every once in a while, the judge, whether it's a JP or district court or county court, will come up, some lawyer will come up with some weird name about something, and the judge says, serve it, and so you style it, writ to determine the color of the sky. You've never seen that. It's not on the fee schedule, but the judge has ordered it. It's ordered it served to somebody, and so it's not on the fee schedule, but you got your catch-all provision. Now, it's once in a blue moon, but I strongly suggest y'all put that down there as a catch-all. Any questions from anybody?
Yeah. You don't have a recommended fee schedule today.
I don't today.
Okay, but you will.
I will.
And we need that. When's the next workshop?
The next workshop will be August 13th.
We need that by the 13th.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Because that's when we're going to start making decisions.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
And look, we all appreciate the hard work you've done. We understand this, and the sheriff is here to talk about their position. And of Questions of the constable?
I think this is a great idea. I mean, the city was bad about not updating their fees, and if y'all haven't updated, or we haven't updated since 2009, I think it's important. This would be a way for revenue to come in, but it would offset cost. I realize that, but I think it's great.
Well, and like, I just, on the record, I'm neutral on this, because I'm not for raising taxes, I'm not for raising fees, but I realize there's time comes when sometimes you just have to do that, because simply it's, $1 in, $1 out, and if it's costing you $1 to do something, and you're only charging 75 cents for it, to me, it's not a revenue thing.
And everyone does that. You have to pay for what it costs.
Well, sure. And I'm not saying, Commissioner, I'm not saying this is the gospel. I'm saying this is what I believe it ought to be, broken down to the minute. Now, let me kind of give you a little bit of thought process if you're looking through this. There are some assumptions made in this spreadsheet, because it's, as far as I'm concerned, it was impossible to get down to the penny for penny cost, because serving papers is an ever-moving process, okay? From the moment we get it, for those of you who are not familiar with what I do, now, you're familiar with the law enforcement side, I'm sure, of what I do, but then I got the civil process side of my office. From the moment that paper comes in, then there's a cost to the county for the district clerk or the JP clerk to produce that paper. And then it comes in, and then my secretaries have to spend time entering it. Okay, we just don't get them to go serve. There's a legal process that you have to go through, and then it's got to go to my chief deputy for review in my precinct, because I broke my precinct down into 3 zones: zone 1, 2, and 3. And the reason I do that is to save you money, because as you well know, I've got the Bluff all the way out to almost Petronilla. And so I don't want a guy going to Petronilla serving the paper and coming back to Flower Bluff and serving the paper. That's a waste of time and money. So we take the Zone 3 papers, and that guy stays in his zone. We take the Zone 1 papers, which is Flower Bluff area, and he stays in Flower Bluff. He's not going to Chapman Ranch, unless there's an emergency paper or something. But, day to day, that's what happens. So it saves you money. Saves you gas, saves you time, saves you money.
But you also have to go serve more than once if they're not there, right?
That's a great comment. I'm fixing to get to that. And so the chief breaks them down into the zones, and then the supervisor for that particular shift, day or night shift, he further breaks those papers down, and then we have to check and make sure that those papers are actually in my precinct. Okay, now, most of the time we can do it right here because we know our streets, but, if you ain't been around the south side lately, in the deep south side, it's just booming. I just can't keep up with it right now with my current workforce. And so there's a lot of streets we don't know, so we have to check those. That takes time. That's a cost, in my opinion. And then you give it to the guys to go serve. And like Commissioner Bond said, we don't always hit them the first time. So one of the assumptions I made in here was 20 minutes of paper. I'm talking about service time. Doesn't include any time I would put into it. It doesn't include my chief's time, which is in here, but it's a separate cost. It doesn't include that supervisor time, organizing all that stuff. So I just sat down with my chief and with my senior admin clerk, who's been with us 25 plus years, so she knows this stuff. We sat down and kind of came up with a model, okay? And we came up with an averaging. So that's one of the assumptions that I have made, that on the average, it's 20 minutes. That's why I broke the cost down all the way down to the minute, per minute, okay? And like I say, it may take 1 time, it may 2 times, but we average 3 times, okay? On the basic paper, we average 3 times. And sometimes the day crew won't hit it, and those papers get turned over to the night crew. Because people, they work. And we may not know their place of business. We know where they live. We don't know their place of business. So the night crew will catch them after 6 o'clock. Okay, so that assumption is 20 minutes per paper with an assumption of 3 times. That's papers. That's not writs. When you talk about those writs, because right now you're charging, I think, $160 for a writ, and writs take a lot more time. For instance, a writ of possession, and I do a lot per week. You'd be surprised at the evictions that sadly I have to do. And that 160 buys the landlord 2 hours. Okay? On this proposed fee schedule I'm going to show you, or I'll show you by the 13th, Your Honor, is that after 2 hours, and pretty much all counties do this on writs of possession, which is a big paper we serve here, is after 2 hours, then the landlord gets charged an additional X dollars. I think right now it's $25 an hour per guy. Because sometimes these writs of possessions, which equals an eviction, can get a little nasty. And so sometimes I have to send 2 guys. Okay? Most of the time I can do it with 1 guy. And most of the time, we can get them out in 2 or 3 hours. It all depends on just how much stuff the tenant has in the house. Now, by the way, we don't touch furniture, we don't move furniture. We're there to keep the peace. That's what that writ of possession is to legally turn the property back over to the landlord, which then at that moment we serve that paper, that makes the tenant a trespasser. Okay? And so we're there, so it's up to the landlord to move everything out. And we're there just to keep the peace, that's it. But on the proposed fee schedule, there will be an asterisk down at the bottom on writs of possession to show a fee, per hour fee, per guy fee, for anything over 2 hours. And that seems to be standard that I can tell with the other counties. Now,
Mitchell, can I ask you something real quick? First of all, I want to thank you, Ray, for doing this. We talked about this last year, and we kind of got caught right at the end, and so everybody was not comfortable enough to move forward on this last year, but we said, well, we're going to get around to it next year, and then fortunately you called and reminded me and said, hey, it's coming up again, and it had slipped off the plate. And I don't want to, I hate to throw numbers out that get people's anticipation up, but do you remember last year, and I think that the key to this thing is we shouldn't be in the subsidy business. We shouldn't be subsidizing what it costs to serve these papers. We should at least, in my opinion, be charging what it costs to do it. Last year we had an issue trying to figure out how do we figure out what it costs, so I really appreciate you taking a shot at this year because we didn't have this last year. And yeah, you're right, audit may look at it and say, well, you're a little off here, you're a little off here, but it gives us a place to start. And we're starting now, I think, early enough to where if this court can come to a consensus, meaning 3 votes, and we can come up with an amount that shows that we can legally justify, because I know, Laura, we talked about this a little bit last year too, that we have to show, that we are justifying that this is the cost of doing business, right? And we got to figure out how to come up with all that. But in your opinion, and I'd rather you be more conservative than not, what kind of revenue are we talking about that you think we're falling short? And in regards to how much less are we charging per year as a county based on what you've seen, overall dollars, not per piece of paper, that we're shorting ourselves in this county, in your opinion, and you're one person, and like you said, what's your thought on that?
Commissioner, it's just so, I don't have my calculator, so somebody got a calculator. Just take $25 times 1,600. What is that?
Well, that's just your 2 precincts, right? That's just you.
That's just one and 2.
$40,000.
How much?
$40,000.
A month.
$40,000.
A month.
A month.
Well, so
Then you sprinkle in the very few papers that the other precincts serve.
So that's just your precinct we're talking about?
no, it's him and one.
Precinct 1 and 2?
Because we are by far the biggest.
And that's a rough estimate, but that's kind of, and Carolyn, you weren't here last year, and we talked a little bit about this, but it's a significant amount of potential revenue that we're shorting ourselves, that we are not, that this is costing the county to go serve these papers. If we start from the premise of we can only charge what it costs to do the business, this is not a profit center, this is purely a break-even deal, and we're shorting ourselves, and let's say it's not, let's say you're overshooting, and let's say it's only $30,000 a month. That's a lot, and that's just your 2 precincts. That's a lot of revenue that we're shorting the taxpayers of this county potentially,
And that's this right now.
that goes a long way in not having to look at other things, that we're looking at to try to balance this budget. So, me personally, I'm very interested in this premise, because anything that we can do to bring in legitimate additional revenue, that, especially if we're not charging enough, which it sounds like we potentially are, and like you said, audit could shoot this down, and it could be, you're what, right. But I mean, your analysis is not offensive. I mean, this to me looks like a reasonable starting point. I think we have to put this on our list of, and it's not a cut, but of our list of potential sources to offset that $2.765 million that we've been talking about, and not in a cut, but in a revenue enhancing type situation. So and everybody else gets to win obviously on that too, but if that's the consensus of what everybody up here, or the consensus up here everybody feels, then where do we go from here would be my question. I mean, what do we do at this point? And again, I don't know if everybody agrees, but I think we ought to at least take a look at it, run the scenarios.
Council, I want to say thank you for everything, all the work you've done. This is great work, and I appreciate that. And when you mentioned it last year, it didn't go in depth years, believe me. I've been with Dale, I worked with Dale, I don't know how many times, Dale, maybe 3 times, and Christian, I don't know how many times, like, we even looked at every fees everywhere else. We compared it to about 5 counties, and we couldn't find a lot to come up with that would make a big difference. Of course, when I went this year into your area, probably should have. But, when you brought this up, my deal is, where can we find more monies, and more fees? And I think you and I talked about it one time. And, so I had Dale and I had Kristen look up, how many counties were, like 6 counties, compared to our county, and every fee that we pay, we compared to ours, and, there wasn't a lot of big difference on some of the fees, and some already maxed out fees. But the paper thing here is something that really to look at, really. I think that it's something that...
Thank you, Commissioner. I do the same thing. But what I'm finding in talking to my colleagues, my law enforcement colleagues, is that this is just one of those things that seems kind of stay neutral and never really gets looked at.
Nobody said anything before, so...
I didn't, when I raised this issue last year, I didn't intend to create a storm. I just thought it was something that my eyes saw as elected official. I thought I needed to bring it to the court, because that's y'all's job to figure all this out. And I'm going to help any way you ask me to do. I will. That's just part of my responsibilities, I believe. I really believe in. But it's just this fee thing never seems to get really hard looked at. And this account's been since '09. And maybe y'all have looked at it over the past year. You just kept it to what it was. That's fine. So I just brought it to light. That's really all I'm doing. I'm going to serve the papers. I'm going to do my constitutional duties. And I'm going to serve the papers if we charge $1 or we charge, $1,000. I mean, I'm going to serve them and charge what y'all told me to charge, but they're going to get served.
And the way and the reason why this, I think, is going to be effective, it's a user-based fee. I mean, you talk about raising anything, you talk about raising taxes, and that impacts everyone, and everyone kind of perks up and pays attention to what this court is doing. But when you talk about a user-based fee, most people don't have to deal with a writ or anything like that. And
most of the fees are paid by the lawyers.
So it's not being paid by the general public. I mean, you're talking about a small percentage of people that, landlords and others, that will have to go to you or to the other constables and pay these fees. So I think when you're talking about raising a user fee, I think that's really, that's kind of the way to go. I mean, we're not putting more burden on the homeowners or, taking hits from city and other levels of municipalities. What you're getting here is just a small group of people who tend to have to use these services, and we're making it, like you said, at a standard that we probably should have been catching up with, but at least we're here now. So I thank you for this work, and I hope we're able to move forward and see the work that you've done, and hopefully get it done by next week, like the judge has put upon you, and that we can make those changes to reflect that in the next budget.
Well, I thank y'all all, and I want, you know, one other way I look at this is the Consumer Price Index, okay, which has nothing to do with the time value of money, and you really need to, in my opinion, to take a look at that, okay, as a call. I think it is. I'm not a CPA, but I've done it as a business lawyer. I've represented enough business folks, and I know how to read P&Ls and cost reports. I mean, I just 30 years doing it. I just learned it the hard way. But on these writs, if I'm correct at $96.75, with the assumption of 20 minutes and at least 3 times, right? Then that means the writs should be about, 96 times 2. Okay, so they should be, they're 160 now for most of them. You know, they should probably be about 180, maybe. I know there's counties that charge less, there's counties that charge more, but this is, you just can't compare. Each county is its own business, its own budget, its own cost of goods, if you will. Look at it from the simple accounting concept. And so Nueces County is, it might be like a lot of counties, but it's not. In just terms of how our revenue come in, our costs going out. And so that's why I believe the statute is written to say cost.
Appreciate your hard work. Get that to us, get to Kristen, so we can put a number to it. Thank you.
Very well. Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Dale, what's our collection rate on these fees?
As the constable said, these fees are required to be paid immediately when the papers are served, so collection is 100%. We cannot
That's good.
serve papers.
That's good.
that might
That's
be
good.
received.
It's the best collection deal you've got. I mean,
Yeah.
pay to get it.
With the exception of Attorney General papers.
Yes.
Okay.
Because we can only charge the Attorney General papers, which are subpoenas, basically, 66% of our scheduled fee. That's by statute. And then they pay up front. We have to
Attorney
bill.
General,
Yeah, we have to bill them, right? Yeah, so
they do pay though.
they do pay, but we have to actually bill them.
Do you know how much we took in last year on these fees?
I could go through there and find out. It's several hundred thousand.
Curious.
Now, just so we understand, there's I think it comes from the comptroller, the fees for the sheriff and the constables are submitted by the sheriff and constable for that. So usually they don't go through my office, but my internal audit staff is here and willing to assist in any way of calculating these fees. But normally the fees are brought in through the sheriff and constables together as a unit and supplied to support, and they are the ones who provide these fees to the court for consideration.
Well, obviously, Dale, we're going to look to you to verify, whatever numbers come forward. So is there something else that we're sitting here today that you need from Mitchell, that you need to help you do this? Because
No, what we'll
I
do
think
is
it's
similar to
important.
what he did. We'll call some other counties that, in my level of work, to see if we have some audit divisions that have assisted in the sheriff's and constable fee collections. As the constable said, normally the actual constable or sheriff don't get involved because of numberings.
But hold on. What he said was important here. I don't know how important it is to call these other counties. I think it's more important to calculate the cost of doing business in
But if
the
they already
Oasis
have a
County.
platform and model to use, we can use that model.
Okay, so you're saying for model, he's saying the biggest one in the state doesn't have one.
We're
but-
not gonna use theirs.
No, I'm saying, he's saying the biggest one in the state doesn't have one. So if you could find, I see what you're saying. You're saying calling
Not
for
the
the
constable. I'm
models.
talking about the audit division.
For the models.
Models.
Audited, I got it, my bad. Okay, that makes sense.
If I may, what I submitted was a proposed model.
Right, and
It's just,
resubmit that to,
based on known costs that I know what
It's starting.
costs are, yeah.
right, and you've got that proposed model?
As counsel said, there are some other additional costs. We need to have some indirect, some direct, so we have to make sure that's there. And some of them that may seem direct might be indirect, and we may not be able to charge the full amount of some cost based on certain scenarios. But we'll need to work with the constable, and we'll work with some models that other counties have to try to help the sheriff and the constable come up with the right fees.
Great. Thank you, Mitchell.
A nice vacation.
I'm going to, Judge. Thank you. Have the excuse?
You bet. Thank you very much for coming.
You going on vacation? Wait a minute, we didn't say you go on vacation. We got,
First time since I took office.
That is sad.
First time.
Sheriff, or Sheriff's Department. Good morning. It's good to see you all. Morning, John. Okay, thank you so, okay, good, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Sorry. Thank you.
And here are the revenue from 2016, 2017, and up to date 2018.
Okay, thank
They
you.
tell you exactly how much precinct 1, precinct 2, and the other precincts collected that we collected for the papers that they served. That's what we have. That comes through our office.
Okay, good.
Okay?
Thank you.
And of course, the sheriff's office too. We also serve papers.
Thank you.
All kinds. And
Thanks.
It's July. Okay.
Now, this chart that the captain gave you all, she did this last year,
Okay.
and we contacted all these counties up that are listed on the chart, on the spreadsheet. And as you can see, like you all were saying, we're pretty compatible with what their fees are. And I understand it from the captain, everything starts at our office and it's channeled out to the precincts, constable precincts. So what she gave you as far as the revenue, I'll let her explain it because she's been doing this for a lot of years.
Okay.
I'm going to explain the revenue, or we collect. The other income, that's the booking reports. Those are the reports that we run for the attorneys that come and they want to know who's in our jail, so we charge them, and that's what we collect. Then precinct 1 are all the papers that they get. That's how much we collected so far in 2018. And then following precinct 2 for 2018. The fees for the sheriff's fees of local office is 19 so far. Those are all the papers we collect, including the order of sale. That's the biggest money that comes in. Then foreign, that's all the papers that come from other counties. And that the sheriff serves those and also disperses them, but we collect the money and send it to the treasury. And then the livestock, that's the animals they get out of the ranch and stuff that we have to go get them and put them away, and that's what we collect. That's the total so far of all revenue, executions, order of sales, and any refunds or debits that we have at the end. That's how much we received so far for 2018. That's from January through July. And then the following page is the same thing, but that's for the whole year of 2017 and 2016.
So the fees that are shown on here are the total amount of fees collected by that precinct?
Those are the papers that we get, which the citations, the writs, that every writ of attachment, all these writs and all, that's how much we collect. It comes through our office. Those are only the papers that come through our office. We process them, put them in, and send them to the different precincts.
Okay, so the papers coming to the sheriff's department, if you use the analogy, are a whole lot less than those going to the various JP offices.
Or to the different precincts.
Yeah.
They might get their own papers, and then they
So
receive
if,
their own.
if he's getting 1,600,
If he's saying that,
yeah, that could be.
usually we're the ones that take care of all the papers that come in. They come through our office, and then we send it to the different precincts.
So you're telling me that every paper, whatever, being served by the various precincts, by the various JPs, they all come through the sheriff's office?
Yes, the district sends them to ours. Sometimes they send them directly to them, but they've already collected the fee.
Well, I think some of the JP send it direct to the constables. I don't go
Could be.
through y'all.
The evictions and, I think the evictions
See, that's
go
what he's talking
through the
about,
JP
evictions.
directly to him.
Because and I'm Judge Kimmy, but when you get the papers in the sheriff department, you don't service papers. You just
No.
distribute the papers.
Right.
The precinct, so the precinct.
Depending on the address, yes, sir.
The precincts are the one actually that collect the papers.
Right.
They're the one that serves the papers. Y'all don't serve papers.
Yes, we do.
Well.
We serve some.
Probably minimal, very minimal, right? But so you distribute those, the JPs, so one actually send them directly to the constables. So they don't go, those don't go to you, right?
No, the JPs don't.
You don't know
We
really?
only get papers from the district clerk.
And that's a lot from the JP. The JP serve a lot of papers. I mean, that's,
Yeah, I'm trying to,
yeah, that's what.
okay, so the fees derived from the papers that go through the sheriff's office are minimal. The fees, potentially, what the constable said, the fees derived from papers that go to the constable to serve could be a substantially larger number.
It gets them from the JPs.
Is- What is your feeling on raising fees?
I would leave it alone. No.
You all leave it alone?
So leave it alone, but what if it's costing us money to serve those? What if the analysis comes back that says we're losing money as a county by what we're charging? Because we're lower than everybody, I mean, most everybody. If you just look at this, and again,
Yeah,
I don't think that's a good comparison either, just because who knows if those counties that look at it either. So if the analysis comes back and says we're losing money by serving, your position would still be.
A suggestion from me, maybe, like you said, the rate of attachments, all the writs, go maybe to 180.
But why would you leave it alone? If it's costing the county money, why would you want to leave that alone? That doesn't make sense to me if we know it's costing the county money.
I just don't see it, that we process that many papers as,
Well, you don't, but you give them somebody else to process them, you see, so.
see, we don't see that. We only see the sheriff's office.
Sure,
I don't know how many papers he actually gets from JPs, and he might get other papers from district clerk that we don't see. I'm only going by what we see at the sheriff's office.
And
Okay.
that's where we need to kind of clarify some information. Some papers come straight to the sheriff, some come straight to the constables, but a lot of them come through either the justice of the pieces or either the district clerk or county clerk. And the county clerk or JPs actually do the collections for us. And I just ran a total for our current year for every paper we serve through all the justice pieces, all the sheriff is $693,000.
That's gross revenue.
Gross revenue currently. Now, it's not through the end of the year,
Oh, that's year to date?
year to date.
And so we're,
Got another month and a half.
so that's what, $69,000 a month or something like that, or roughly?
If we go to the 10, yes.
And that's constables, that's everything, every paper served in the
Every
county.
paper served through the county, through a constable or through the sheriff. Either going through the justice of the peace, going through the district clerk or county clerk, or actually going through the sheriff or the constable individually. And that sometimes happens.
And sometimes he gets a lot of papers that we don't see that go direct to him from attorneys
Yeah,
because of the area where, this paper is going.
Right.
So we have to
Well,
consider that too.
If he's gonna raise the fees, or we should raise the fees, then you should, it's gotta be both of you together raising the fees.
That's gotta be
You know, you can't, papers coming out of your office with $75 and he's coming to the office with $160. There's no way you can do that because, and this is why we mentioned, it's gotta be a joint effort here.
Absolutely.
And in order to across the board to be the same way, we know what everybody's doing, but you see, you don't want to raise it. Why, I don't know what the reason is you don't want to raise it. Is there a lot of work involved in this thing or what?
We process papers and we serve papers, but I don't see I'd have, like he said, we do have to do the research as far as how long the person takes to, I only have one civil person that does all our serving for papers, and one clerk, and that's it.
We got to give them all to the constables then.
Well, depending on the area. Depends on everybody's area, because everybody has a different area. All the constables have their own area, so we can't send them all to him.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
I'm saying you send them all to, you got 5 constables.
Right, we send them,
Oh, you send
and
them,
sometimes some of the constables don't get any papers.
So we would do it, to talk about what Joe's talking about, if we set the fees, we set the fees.
And it's
Everybody
across
do
the board.
whatever we
Yes, sir.
set the
It's-
fees at. So that would take care of what
Yeah.
you're talking about, Commissioner.
Yeah, if you go up to 180, everybody, it has to be, because everybody has gonna have to, they serve fees, and that's what they're gonna have to send or pay. Absolutely.
And the fees can't be any higher than what's necessary to pay for.
Right.
And just for clarification, when we talk about the constable precinct 2 here, from all sources, with the JPs, the constable himself, and the district clerk, he collected and issued $239,000 worth of serving currently. Constable 2.
Mitchell did.
Yes.
Constable.
So what we're looking for,
He does do a big chunk of them, is basically what backs up what he says.
constable 1.
Right. He said if you
Kristen,
combine those two.
I'm sorry, excuse me, Brent, I'm sorry.
No, my bad.
And Kristen and Dale, what we're looking for at the next budget workshop is the delta. We're trying to determine, based on what the recommended fee schedule might be, that we might adopt as a court, what is the delta between that number and where we are? That's what we're looking for.
And that's where we'll have to do some different scenarios.
And it can be an estimate, and because that's the revenue enhancement you're talking about is the delta. And so let's find the cost, and you'll verify the cost, and you all have done some good work. We appreciate that. And then between all of us, we'll try to arrive at a fee schedule that allows us to judge how much revenue enhancement there is. That's what we're looking for. If it's 100,000 or $500,000, that's what we need from you all.
And that would be the increase of where the fees there are now and where the fees are
That's
future,
right.
then we
That's
can,
right.
we can do a rough estimate.
We're going to adopt a new fee schedule. We need to know what the revenue enhancement's going to be, because that number is going to be important to us
Yes.
to offset other costs if we have them, okay?
And my internal audit staff is here, and they're going to start working with other counties as well as the
Well,
sheriff's office.
I'm not going to get into the weeds with you guys.
to get the cost.
You know what we want. We want cost, current revenue, projected revenue on an amended fee schedule. Okay? Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Just the
Okay.
cost, as long as the
Good
cost
deal.
of doing business.
Thank you all very much.
Cost of doing
Comments by anyone else on the fees? I would welcome your comments. You're always welcome to come. None? All right, we're going to go back. Thank you all. We're going to go back to some issues that were raised yesterday, and I think it's appropriate. Glad to have the county attorney here. One of the questions raised by Commissioner Gonzalez was over Road District 4. Could you lead us through your advisory and your discussion, please, Counselor?
Yes, the bottom line is Road District 4, it's its own entity, and the Commissioners Court are also commissioners for Road District 4. They basically, when the creation of Road District 4, there was some bonds, and the whole purpose behind that is to build roads in that jurisdiction. I don't think there has been much money all along, except for now this sale of land, which now has increased the dollars. So those monies are restricted, and the Commissioner Court as a body makes decisions about any monies and how they're used within that jurisdiction. And of course, you have an open meeting, you usually have it separate and apart from Commissioner's Court. There is no structure set up in terms of management during, how to deal with the money right now. But that's something that the court itself can make a decision and decide how to do it. Road District 4 is basically all of Precinct 4, from what I looked at the jurisdiction part. So it all lays there. Now, the question becomes, can you use that money for other purposes? No, but there is a small exception that you could use it for other purposes outside of that jurisdiction, and it's usually on the adjacent property from Precinct 4 or the Road District 4, but it's got to be related and it's got to be beneficial for Road District 4. So technically speaking, it may be maintenance of a road that is attached to Road District 4 road, something along those lines. And that's pretty much it. It's restricted money, and you can't commingle it with the county. But I do want to say that I guess in the past, and obviously with those roads, you have to maintain them. And I don't know whether or not prior to this sale of land, how much money there has been for maintenance. And pretty much it's possible that Nueces County was supplanting that for that purpose.
Okay, so you sold the road, is that what I'm understanding?
Sold some land
Sold
within
some
the
land.
jurisdiction.
Okay, can that be abolished, the District 4 that you sold?
I did provide an advisory concerning that. It has not been abolished. There is a question mark as to whether that money becomes county money.
If you abolish it, that's what's...
So it's better that you not abolish it and use it accordingly.
All right, so and I'm not putting words in anyone's mouth, if I understand where we are, the funds derived from the sale of that land to the port all goes into the Road District 4
Fund.
fund. And according to what you said, some of those funds might be used for roads or something adjacent to Road District 4, which for the most part is all Precinct 4. So if there are funds available in the balance of the Road District 4 funds, and based on what you just told us, it's up to Precinct 4 to come to the court or not to come to the court.
The court will have to, the Road District 4 will have to meet, and you will have to make a decision as to whether or not those money can be used for outside of Road District 4. Because there's a standard that you have to determine as a body.
So if the Commissioners Court meets, has a special meeting on allocation of funds for Road District 4, and the court decides to let let Precinct 4 administer those funds, that could be a decision of the court.
You can do
The
that.
court could also decide something differently.
The other difference would be that the board itself would have to meet every time and manage those monies.
So we would become, the court, Commissioners Court, would become an active manager
Right.
of those funds.
Right.
And take that responsibility, maybe, take that responsibility
As a
away from
body.
Precinct 4.
As a body.
So we would be determining how to use those monies within the existing road district or within Precinct 4?
Within the jurisdiction of Road District 4. And basically, you can only do it for roads.
I read that, yeah.
So you can't use it for other things other than for roads or either constructing or maintaining those roads.
Why would we want to do that? That's in his precinct.
Well, I'm trying to get there. I'm trying to figure out if we're asking for more trouble than we are. But right now, the monies are sitting in the Road District 4 fund balance. There's an income stream from Martin, whatever it is, which is a long-term lease. And part of the sale to the port of that road or that land was that we maintain the revenue from that lease in the Road District 4 funds until such time as the lease is terminated. And I think it's a 20-year lease. So there was a long revenue stream coming back into there. Okay. So if we wanted as a court to abolish this, the problem is, and if I read your advisory correctly, we go back to the legislature, they do their magic. They pass whatever they pass and abolish Road District 4. We don't know where those monies will go, do we?
Correct.
They could tell us.
Possibly they could go to the state.
They could. I read that. They could tell us we're going to abolish that, but hey, there's $4 or $5 million there. We want the money, and we have nothing to say about that. The legislature would say that, or they could say it goes to the county, or it goes to XYZ. But knowing my legislative buddies always hunting for money, if somebody saw a pot of money sitting somewhere, I can imagine they're going to quote one of these things you quoted that says, this one went to the county, went to the state, this one went to the state, this one went to the state. So we'd have to be very, in my opinion, we'd have to be very careful before we go ask them to abolish this, because God only knows what they do with the fund balance. And if they did something like that, you lose millions of dollars that could be used to enhance things in Precinct 4 in the county. Okay. Everybody got any, isn't that clear? No. Anybody got any questions for the county attorney?
No, I just want to mention here on this section 1471-027. It says, if the Commissioners Court finds that the improvements are reasonable, necessary, and beneficial to all taxable property in the district. Therefore, the Commissioners Court determines that road improvements are reasonable necessary and beneficial to all taxable property in Road District 4, then the funds can be used outside Road District 4. The Commissioners Court, sitting as Road District 4 Commissioners, would have to make the determination for use of those funds in a precinct outside of District 4. Therefore, no case law of Attorney General. So we're saying that we can use it for outside precinct, District 4.
But it's got to be related somehow to Road District 4 jurisdiction.
So long as, say
So
this,
if it's adjacent, if there's adjacent precinct, and you have a road that's connecting to a Road District 4, and you need to maintain it because it's going to be beneficial to Road District 4, then you would have, the court can make that decision that is reasonable
so really the funds in the Road District 4 belongs to us, not,
to the Road District 4 commissioners.
and then we're the commissioners, I guess. And it doesn't belong to one precinct, but, and we feel necessary to say, for instance, precinct 4 commissioner says, yeah, I need money for this road here, precinct 4 road, and adjacent to that, and we approve it, that's fine, right?
But the court would have to, the commissioners for Road District 4, which is a commissioner, would have a meeting, a notice meeting, you would have to make a decision that it's necessary and reasonable. So you have to make that finding before the money can be used for that purpose, outside of Road District 4 jurisdiction.
But in precinct 4,
What?
use of the money.
The use of money stays with Road District 4.
No, but adjacent precinct is precinct 4.
No, adjacent precinct would be outside of precinct 4.
No,
No.
the only thing adjacent to Road District 4
is precinct 4.
Precinct 4, because the road district ends at the causeway.
Okay, that's where I was,
And
I
then
thought it was completely precinct 4.
I mean, my understanding is that
From when we looked at map, we saw that the whole jurisdiction of Road District 4 includes all up to the Flower Bluff area, so it's all precinct 4, I think. But I don't know, I mean, we'd have to look at the map.
but I don't think it's all of precinct 4, because,
And if that's not the case, then yes, the adjacent property would be precinct 4.
okay, so get the definition of what Road District 4 is.
We'd have to look at the map and identify the jurisdiction.
I'd like to chime in, because yesterday I didn't jump into this issue because I wanted to have the county attorney here to clarify. I appreciate the written response he gave us. Like I mentioned yesterday, it could be left up to some interpretation as we all each read it. If we're following what you're saying, it seems like the money's got to stay within that boundary. That boundary is in totality in Commissioner Precinct 4 precinct. And so there's been, I guess, some discussion and some votes that have happened to where some of the money is being implemented the way that it was discussed, would be rolled into the precinct. And then the rest, or a portion of that, would be used to offset costs that we have here in the county. Am I right so far?
For Road District 4 projects.
For Road District 4 projects.
For
So,
precinct, right.
so that is going to, I guess, give you what you need in your precinct, but that also means that is less money that we have to devote from our budget into precinct 4. Is that part of this discussion, or is that what has happened? And I don't know, Judge, if you can help me or Dale, or... Well, let me ask them. Let me ask them.
Dale, I think we need to move to the next step of what Commissioner Chesney offered to do as part of our budget discussion with some of those, let's just say $6 million, okay? Can you take us from there?
Well, you want to go from last year, or you want to do current, what we're doing for current, so.
I want to do what we're proposing. I think John's asking, we've had some proposals to transfer internally some funds to offset an allocation of transferring out funds from the general fund to precinct 4, or to the coastal parks.
Right.
So we need to clarify that so we're on, I think, John, we're on the same page with the county attorney.
Doing some stuff where we'll probably submit this to commissioners and for this way it is. If he wanted to do $1 million from what our plan was, well, it's similar to what it is. If we look at the entire road fund, which is, we're at a unit road fund, and it covers the entire county. There's no particular, that working with, I talked to Mr. Pimlico yesterday, and he's in agreement with Mr. Sullivan said that roughly $800,000 to $900,000 every year is spent in Precinct 4. So what the plan is, we're going to transfer some of the funds from District 4 into the road fund to cover its cost of Precinct 4, roads. We're estimating about $500,000 for that transfer. The other part is, in coastal parks, it sounds like they're just a park division. However, coastal parks does more than just parks. They clear access roads, they do beach maintenance reports, they do other reports that benefit roads in the beach area. So we're estimating also doing another $500,000 to coastal parks from Road District 4 to do the maintenance of the roads and access roads and beach improvements that are needed to for that Precinct 4 area. So that would be the $1 million that he has. With doing that, the general fund does not have to fund those operations. And that's how we would do a reduction of cost from the general fund by offsetting those particular funds for 1 year.
1 year. And so that helps. We can't divide up that money based on language, but it is helping the budget. It's helping the other precincts because we're not asking those additional resources to go out to your area because you're kind of covering the costs from the city. Yeah.
Right, so if we remember the budget challenges we had on discussion yesterday, there was one budget challenge that we need an additional $500,000 for the road fund because of how it's been working in the past. We're saying it's 1 year, we can use the $500,000 from that, so we don't have to add that to the general fund this year, but we will the next budget year. So that can absorb that $500,000, and we got that in when we talked about this later on in the budget discussions.
Well, for me, I mean, I'd love to see, us all be able to split up. We all have needs in our precincts to help cover the costs, based on the language and the opinion that we have. I mean, we're pretty handcuffed of what we can do. I know that Commissioner Gonzalez mentioned there's going to be a way of looking at, of using some of that funding. If it's there for now to be able to use to draw down our budget needs and it's reducing the costs, I'm not going to say no to it. I'm not going to kind of bite the hand that feeds me when you're giving, a decent amount of money back into the budget. So that's my part there. I just think it's strange language that if we sold the airport, that's in Precinct 3, I wouldn't expect that money just to be mine. I think that by principle does not make sense, but we have to go with our opinion. We have to go with the way the language is written. And so, if this is the only route, then this is the only route.
And as you said, sometimes there are restrictions, like Road District 4 restriction because of the way it was drawn. When we sold the property at the fairgrounds, we were required to keep it in the fairgrounds because of its debt service. We can't spend it anywhere other than the fairgrounds. But similar to what you have at the airport or anything else that's sold that wasn't required, then yes, it could be allocated amongst every county, or amongst county, yes.
Can I ask a couple of questions? It was 6 point how much?
It was 6.2, 6.8.
6.8 million. That's a lot of money. And I understand, here's how I see it. And it doesn't matter really how I see it because it's going to be whatever. But to me, it's not just this Precinct 4's money, it's the county's money. It's the county's money. And so, Brent, I appreciate the fact that you want to do that. And you're not going to like what I'm going to say here. But I'm going to ask this because they've got a lot of money out there. And so would you commit, we wouldn't only do $1 million this year, but if you just ignore the rest of that money, and I'm sure you've got a couple of projects, can you commit to setting the money back and keeping it there so next year we can do the same thing?
That would have to be a decision of the court. Right now, if we do this, we'll get down to $1 or $2 million left in Road District 4. But every year, as the judge says, we have a lease on there that we receive anywhere between $100,000 to $100,000 a year
And I know that, but that's $100,000 compared to a million, that's not much.
Exactly, yes, yes.
So I'm just saying, can we commit to doing that so that the entire county really does benefit from it, because it'll take away from the general budget next year, which we're 2.7 million short this year. So I'm saying, possibility to do that. Would you consider that?
Later in the budget discussion, I provide y'all with some information for you. Commissioner Mott has asked for capital projects, and those capital projects show the amount we've already transferred, or not transferred, but allocated from Road District 4 to a few other parks in Precinct 4.
Padre Valley.
And then that shows you how much is remaining in Road District 4 that's not been spent.
So what is that? So it said 1.2 for Padre Valley, and I.B. McGee was 1.8.
That's the work they're working out there at the moment.
Is that part of that money, Brent, that you're using?
Let me answer your first question. The answer is, of that, and I think it was 6.8. Am I missing?
It's around 6 million, I believe so.
Of that, 2 million of that had already been taken out of Precinct 4.
Where did it go?
It's in
Last year, the same thing we're doing this year.
fund balance. So 2 million has already been taken out of Road District 4 based on road transfers that we've already done. And I'm proposing another million of that now, this year. And I don't have a project right now. Some of it has been used for Road District 4, yes. 1.8 of it had been allocated for Road District 4 projects within the deal, because I would certainly like to spend some of that money in Road District 4, because it is Road District 4 money. And so of that 1.8, so if we do this, then that's 3 already that has been taken out of Road District 4, out of Precinct 4 already, and the answer is I would absolutely consider that for next budget cycle, if it's something that we have to look at too. Again, I would certainly like to be able for my constituents to spend some of that money in there, but I think with the two that's already been done and one that we're proposing, that's a big chunk of it, and I would absolutely look at it for next year. And to be honest, you're kind of in my next year card already. I kind of would like to hold that to see what we need for next year, because I think we're going to have budget issues next year too, and I would much rather use money to help the county overall, and I appreciate John's acknowledgement of that, because I think that's the right thing to do. I am always the person who wants to not raise taxes, so I have to come up with things to do that. I think building our reserves is a very crucial deal, and I'm glad this court, and again, we did it as a court, but certainly it was my suggestion, but we did it at a court when we helped build the reserves. I think this court acted responsibly in doing that. And so, yes, that's the answer, because anything that we can do to where we don't have to go cut things, that makes it easier on everything, like all those things we talked about yesterday. Those aren't cuts anybody wants to make. It's just we're looking at everything. So absolutely is the answer. I will definitely look at that for next budget.
And I appreciate that for the county.
Sure.
As long as, Commissioner, as long as it's going to roads, and as long as it's going to the District 4, there's no problem. My question was, I didn't think it all was going to the roads, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not, trying to say anything else, but, I just want to, I understand what it says here. I understand it's got to spend there, and I don't have a problem with that either. As long as we use it on that District 4 road, county road, and adjacent to that, I have no problem with that either, but, I just want to make sure,
Well, if Road District 4 is bigger than you think, then there certainly might be, because there's some things out I didn't think the London area, quite honestly, my London area qualified, because I didn't think that was part of Road District 4, so I thought Road District 4 only went up to the causeway, but I may be mistaken.
But then again, you might not need the $50,000 either, right? If you're gonna get all this money, maybe you don't need those $50,000. You can go somewhere else,
Yeah, give it to me.
Yeah. But, I'm just saying,
I proposed $3 million. I thought that was.
But anyways, that's something that I want to make sure we got it all cleared here.
Yes, sir, and I appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Counselor, for being here. Now, what I'd like to do today, for the next hour or so, is I'm going to run through the suggestions that were made, and let's just sort of get some consensus of where we might be. I'm going to start with, and you give us a new sheet of paper to follow, and it's a guide, which I appreciate very much. So, the first one was another approximate $1 million
What did you guess? What are you looking at, Lloyd?
I'm looking at just my list of stuff that you all talked about, Brent, and I'm just going to go down the list that I wrote down, and everybody jump in here. One of the things that Commissioner Chesty said is he'd put another $1 million or so to the general fund from road district 4 funds. Is that reflected in this new sheet of paper here?
Yes, there it is.
Where is it reflected?
If you look under there where it says road fund budget transfer, we took the $500,000 out, because we're going to pay for that with the road district 4 funds.
All right.
And for right below, you see coastal park transfer from road district 4 of $500,000, so that makes it a total $1 million of a reduction.
All right, so that's $1 million additional.
$1 million additional, correct.
That's reflected here.
It is, yes.
Okay, that's number one.
Only 800,000 there,
Pardon me?
only 800,000, right?
No, where you see road fund budget transfer, last time, if you look at last, in your book report, it had a $500,000 needed funds from the general fund. We took that $5,000 away because road district 4 would be paying for it, so we don't need the additional $500,000. Because road district 4 would be paying for that. And we added coastal parks transfer from road 4 of $500,000, which we can reduce from coastal parks transfer. So therefore, that would be the $1 million from road district 4.
This shows 300.
Yeah, this one's,
Well, there's a new one. Last year, if you remember, we added additional contingency of $300,000 transfer to coastal parks because we
That's
thought
correct. That's correct.
taking that out as well.
That's out.
So that's being taken
So
out
the
too.
total effect on the fund balance is $1 million.
Yes.
All right. That's good. All right, now we talked about retirement percentage from 7% to something else. Is that on here somewhere?
Right now, we're leaving the retirement adjustment there at 7% at 1.5 to 1, which is $814,000, which is right below that $3 million cuts.
All right, if we were, as one of the suggestions,
I didn't understand what you just said. I'm sorry. What was your?
If you look at the one that says cuts, the $3 million, right below that, that says retirement adjustments. We're saying that we are still having the employee at 7% and reducing the contribution from the county from 2 to 1 to 1.5 to 1, and that will save $814,000.
I'm more interested in the other one than.
Well, Christian and I went through some numbers, and if we go down to 5% and keep it at the 2 to 1, it's only a minuscule amount difference.
well, wait just a minute. Do you have those numbers, Kristen?
I do, let me answer.
All right, let's talk about those a minute. We're going to get there, folks. We're going to get there.
And is there any way we can get this on the screen? Because I know we have some people out in the audience who are very concerned, especially about that part. Is we can, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are we going to have this on the screen at this point?
I don't,
Can we
What
get
does
that
the
on
red
screen
represent?
so that they want to watch?
Reds are negatives, reduction of expense.
So that 2.4 is the total reduction after everything?
Yes.
Which means then if we did all this, which we're not saying we are, but if we did all this, then we'd be $300,000 away from that 2.75, or am I
That
reading it?
2.7 is completely gone.
I'm going to let you do your presentation because I'm confused.
Let's walk through it.
Okay, I'm confused, so.
Walk through it.
All right, go ahead.
Screen over.
Here we go.
So go to on your retirement.
Oh, well, hold on then, I'm gonna have to switch it back.
Do we have any extra copies?
Yes.
Can we get some to EC and any of the other men or women out in the audience?
And you all are welcome to ask any questions as we go along. We're trying to be as transparent as we can. You're about to watch sausage being made, so it's going to take a little while to make sausage, but we're going to get there. And remember, we're not voting on anything today. We're trying to reach consensus so we can move to the next workshop and start to put some things in place. Okay.
So we'll go back over to the, item you're talking about. On the main screen now, you'll see that I've incorporated this one unit here. So everything in red below is what we, Christian, myself, and a few of my staff together, and with all of your comments yesterday, and try to put some of the values in. We assumed a 3% cut across the board as best we can, so we assumed on $100 million, that would be $3 million worth of cuts, and you see that $3 million negative.
Wait, I see what that is. You put everything in here we threw in.
Yeah.
Okay, now I got you.
That 3% may not fly.
No, I got it. Okay, I didn't figure out what that was. You put everything in the world that everybody even talked about in here, just to show it. I got you.
What we ask you to do.
No, just
Okay.
catch up. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, sorry.
We then put in, we're still assuming the retirement at keeping the employee side at 7% and reducing the contribution from the county from 2 to 1 to 1.5 to 1. And because it starts in January, not October, it's only $814,000 of reduction in expense. Now, if you also receive towards the top, you see a blank on retirement. Before we put these adjustments in, we had $109,000 worth of increase in expense.
That's right.
For retirement. That's not gone.
Sorry, say that again. I'm trying to keep up.
Going from top where you see continued pay, the constable pay, and the retirement is a blank.
7-1 in your book.
8-1.
Okay, hold on.
8-1, 7-1.
Now tell me that again.
The third one down was retirement. When we originally gave it to you, there was $109,000 worth of expense. Because we're adjusting retirement now down to 1.5 to 1, we're removing that $109,000 additional cost that we don't need that now because we're reducing retirement. So now we have the retirement down below at a negative $814,000. So really it was a $900,000, include the $100,000 we originally had expense. We put in the capital projects transfers, a reduction of $50,000 for each commissioner of the judge of minus $250,000. Based on hiring freeze that y'all had mentioned, a rough estimate of $660,000 of additional cost reduction.
Now, that's a hiring freeze that stretches us out to 60 days. Okay, all right.
As I said before, we had the discussion yesterday, we had a road transfer required $500,000 from the general fund, but because of Road District 4, that now $500,000 is taking out. And we're also reducing the transfer to coastal parks by $500,000 in the general fund due to the Road District 4, which makes the $1 million.
Okay, now, I get what you told me a minute ago, but I see the 300 and I see the 500. I'm with Joe on this one. I'm not seeing the million.
500 on road, if you look.
On the original 8-1?
Oh, not that one, over there. That's where it's supposed to be.
Right here.
Right there, if you look at your discussion yesterday, there was a $500,000 in that item because we needed $500,000 from the road fund.
Got that one.
To do it for the general fund. Right. We're now giving it from the road fund, so there's no longer an impact on the general fund. So it's gone.
Okay.
So the one right below that is the additional $500,000 to coastal parks. So those two together is $1 million.
Okay, so we're taking out the 300,000?
Well, last year, we put a contingency of $300,000 into the coastal park fund, should they need it because of Hurricane Harvey. We still don't believe they need it, so we're moving that as a continuous. So now their transfers are back to their original amount of $937,000 with everything included.
We take out 300.
Remember, last year, we included a continuous transfer of $300,000.
And
We're removing that now.
right, because they've come back stronger than we
Come
anticipated.
back a lot stronger than we thought, yes. So that's fund that's not from any place other than a reduction of the transfer.
Okay. And so, I know I'm asking the wrong thing, but where is you're putting back the 300,000 in from coastal parks transfer, right?
Yes.
And where is the second 500,000 that adds up to the $1 million from the Road District 4 money?
Put in another row. Then the Road District 4.
Okay, here's the 500,000 that we needed to increase. Now we're going to show it minus 500 because it's going to be paid by Road District 4.
So that's where the $1 million is. So we basically took the $500,000 out. But for clarification, we can leave that like it is.
That helps me. I got it, okay. Okay.
So those two make the $1 million. And then Commissioner Vaughn has said that she'd be willing to give back the outside entity, so we took the $20,000 from that.
That was off of the actual, I said OBEG, is that what you're talking about?
Yes,
On my
yes,
budget,
yes.
yes.
And with that, with all the negatives and including positives of the balances, we're reducing from the budget, $2.4 million, which is right at almost $4 million worth of reductions. Because the 2.7 is gone, because we're taking it out by $3 million, and the additional cost reductions gives you 2.4 reduction in expense.
So if everything's in, now we're more
To discuss.
pardon me?
Well, this is going through all the questions and responses we had, Chris and I went through those, and we believe that we caught everything that y'all discussed about either adding or removing.
Now, the big unknown here is 3%.
Correct.
There's got to be a lot of talk about that, of reducing staff, which is basically where you get this 3%.
Right.
But in every department across the board.
Okay, so
that's not a given.
no, none of this is a given. This is all just,
Some of it is
we're
pretty
just
good.
all talking. But this red number now means we are not in a deficit anymore. We actually have a balance. If we did all of this, and we're not doing all this probably, but I'm just saying if we did all of this.
What it means is if you look at the numbers above it where you have proposed expenses and transfers, 98 million, we're subtracting 2.4 million from that to get our expenses down to 95.
Well, it might be helpful if you show them the next tab so they can see the fund
Well,
balance.
before we go next tab, I'm sorry I wasn't here, I apologize, I had to be excused, but let's go back, give me the line item, then retirement on the 7%. What was the outcome on that?
Do you want me to walk through that, Judge, right now?
There's this stuff.
Okay.
Go ahead.
That's where we have.
Okay, so I'm going to switch my screen so I can have this up on here.
Okay.
Okay, so there's three different scenarios on here that you'll be looking at. Well, there's actually four, because the first line you're seeing is what we're currently at. That's a 7% employee contribution rate with the employer match of the 2-to-1 or 200%. So the total employer cost without COLA and the total employer cost with COLA, and right now we're just assuming the 2%, obviously. If it went up to 2.5, Dell and I did look at that, and it's a few $1,000s more, but we're just talking estimates right now anyway. So the total employer cost without COLA is the 5.4 million, 5414027. And the total employer cost with COLA would be 5488971. So then we took a look at three different scenarios. The first scenario that you'll see is still maintaining the employee contribution rate at 7%, and then reducing the employer match from a 2-to-1 to a 1.75 to 1. So next year, if everything held steady, the employer contribution rate would be that 1303, reducing to the 1.75 would be 11.86%. So that brings it down to 4.9, which is a $486,000 savings without COLA, $492 with COLA. The second scenario was to look at maintaining the employee contribution rate at 7% and reducing the employer match from a 2-to-1 to a 1.5 to 1. That resulting in a 10.71% contribution rate for the employer. That brings savings of $963,971 without COLA, $977,315 with COLA. And then the third scenario we looked at was reducing the employee contribution rate while maintaining the employer match at a 2-to-1. You'll notice that the employer contribution rate is very similar to the 7 to 1.5 scenario in the line above. And the savings brings about the same as this, the 7 to 1.5. Now, I guess I would, like to note that a couple of things if you're thinking about reducing that employee rate rather than the employer. If you do it for a 1-year period, obviously you're giving back money this year, but if you put it back, you're taking away money next year, and so if employees get used to that extra 2%, and then you take it away again next year, that could be an issue. The other thing I did want to show you, let me pull it up on my screen. So this is the percent of salary that TCDRS benefit replaces at retirement. So you'll notice under the current plan, let's just say that you enter the plan at age 35 and retire at 65. Under the current plan, you're going to have 83% of your retirement replaced, reducing the employee rate to 5% only brings in a 60% rate. Now, keep in mind, this does not affect anything in the past. This is only affecting future money. So the employee's retirement, anything that has been earned up to this point stays. This would be in effect January 1st and would only affect money going forward.
You know, if I was retiring as an employee, not a county commissioner, I wouldn't want nobody to touch my retirement. And I don't think we should even touch the retirement, period.
Yeah, I was just asked to show the scenarios. So
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying this because if the employees that stay here and they base, I mean, they stay because of retirement, not because they get paid good money, you know, and for us to start messing with retirement money, I think is really absolutely no, because I wouldn't want it to happen to me. I mean, I don't think you want it to happen to you if you were an employee in public works or employee somewhere else that, you know, you're not making that kind of money. And when you retire, you want to have some money to retire with. So I don't even want to touch the retirement for the employee. I think it stays the way it is. And that's my opinion, but I think it should stay the way it is, not even touch it.
Did we get anything in writing from TDRS that we could do it 1 year and go back?
Yes.
Because in the past, the court has been told a different story.
Okay, if you look at this Chapter H annually determined contribution rate plan, I was provided this by TCDRS.
You're talking about this?
It should be a 2-page, and the title is Subchapter H annually determined contribution rate plan. I'm sorry, Judge.
No, I've got it. I'm sure I have it. Here it is. Thank you.
Okay. So on Section 8, and this was, I reached out to TCDRS, and they provided, this is TCDRS Act, and they provided this to us.
Okay.
Section 844.702 regarding member contributions, so employee contributions. I'll just read this. The governing body of the subdivision may designate the rate of member contributions for employees of the subdivision to take effect on the effective date of adoption of the plan provisions of this subchapter. The subdivision may elect a rate of 4, 5, 6, or 7% of the current service compensation of its employees. The governing body of the subdivision may thereafter increase or decrease the contribution rate to take effect on the next January 1st after the date of the adoption of the increase in accordance with the provisions of 845402 B and C. So that's regarding member contributions. And then if you flip over to the next page at the bottom under benefits, this is regarding the employer match. And it does say the governing body of a subdivision shall select a percentage for determining multiple matching credits of 0 or any percentage that is the multiple of 5% and does not exceed 150%. The governing body may later increase the percentage used in determining matching credits under Section 843.402 to any percentage that is a multiple of 5% and that does not exceed 150% to take effect on the next January 1st and the date the increase is adopted.
Okay. So I think that answers our question. We can do that for 1 year. The court might do that 1 year at a time.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. So we have before us, and we're not voting today, but we have before us options that she has provided. It appears that we could stay at the contribution rate, reduce the matching to 150%, or go to 5% and match 200%, and the savings is about the same. Right.
That's correct.
Right. About $1 million. About $1 million. Is that reflected in here, or where is it reflected in here?
That one I showed you, the $814,000,
That's got it.
10 months of that rate.
So that's leaving 7% and going to 1.5 to 1,
Or the 5 to...
or 5% and say at 200, it's about the same.
About the same, yes.
Okay, you got that, guys?
And keep in mind that, the plan is a calendar basically on January through December, so you're not going to capture any of the savings until January, so October through December. So we did a prorated
First
portion.
3 months of the coming budget year, we're not going to capture any savings.
That's correct.
That's what the 814 is. It's a prorated version of.
I got it. I got that. All right, so, that's good work. Thank you very much, all of you. All right, so, going back down the list, that answers those questions. Match? Sure.
I still won't touch it every time, but, the COLA, 2%, my deal is still going with 2.5%. And you're looking at a difference almost $250,000, right? $250,000,
Yes.
the difference. And again, because the insurance, I don't have a problem with insurance. We're going to charge them another 1% for the employer. I know it's not going to take away a lot of money, but still 2.5%. And I really don't care about all these raises or these upgrades that we saw yesterday, as far as, the 5,000, 9,000. I think that should be put aside as far as giving up any kind of raise and leaving the COLA at 2.5% instead of 2%. And I don't know what we're doing now, Judge, but I know that Commissioner Vaughn said I should give up 20,000. I'm looking at my budget, if I need to give up 200,000 on my budget, I'm willing to do that. I know it's going to help what's in here, but I don't want to touch I ain't going to touch the retirement, I don't want, and the COLA, I'm willing to do my part to say, I'll give you back 200,000, 250,000. I mean, I can, and I can do that, but I just, like I said, I want to make sure that where it's going to go to, So, again, we're just kind of discussing right now. But the hiring freeze, I had no problem with the hiring freeze. I think it's a good deal. I think it works, and then, as far as the capital projects, transfers, I have no problem with that either. Now, I was going to get back to 50,000 anyway, plus 150,000, there's 100,000 I'm talking about that I would get back. Again, I need to see what we're going to do. And, so, this is what right now that I'm projecting, and I also asked, Chris, did you do a 3% across the board increase, 3%? Remember I asked you?
A 3%, I thought you were talking about a 3% decrease across the board.
No, 2% across the board with no raises and no additions, no nothing.
What? Say that again.
What?
I asked for about 3% across the board, not 2.5%, 3%. Nothing else as far as.
When did you ask for that?
Yesterday.
No, you didn't. You asked for 2.5% yesterday.
You weren't there when I asked, Judge.
Yeah, I apologize, I thought you were talking about 3% reduction.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
So you weren't there.
So Dale, a 3% would,
Or for the general fund, it would be $1,043,000.
No, I'm not interested in that scenario.
No, but I'm just
saying, we're all weighing in. I'm not interested in that scenario.
I'm just asking her, no raises and no.
But that is a raise. You're saying that's.
No, but no, cost of living, not a raise. Cost of living different, a little different. But I'm talking about the other raises everybody's requesting.
We're going to get a chance.
So
Walk
you're saying
through
just
the-
3% across the.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to get a chance to walk through the suggested reclassifications, and we're going to get a chance to walk through the new positions in just a moment. We're going to work through those. Okay, so right now, I want to tell you all, the elephant in the room is a 3% cut.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
That is an absolute elephant in the room.
I don't want that one.
You don't want it?
no, he said
No, I don't want that one, so I wouldn't even.
that was just a scenario. These are just all scenarios.
Yeah, because you're asking constitutional officials who are going to tell you, I think, you tell me where I'm going to cut and who I'm going to fire.
Where to go.
And I'm not going to support a 3% cut. I'm sorry, I'm not.
What
gonna.
about a 1%?
You still got to go back to those people unless we dictate to them that you'll cut 6 people or 5 people or 4 people.
But, or budget stuff, Judge, doesn't have to be people. I mean, 1% is not people necessarily. It can be supplies. It can be, there are things, I just have a hard time believing that people can't go 1% across the board. I mean,
That's
I have a hard time believing that. And that's not,
1%.
it's $1 million.
man, that's a million. 1%'s not that much, surely you can, and the
All right,
commissioners need to do the same thing.
well, all right, let's think a minute.
I'm good.
Judge,
We're thinking.
I think before you get too far into this, I think you should let Bill show you the actual effect on the fund balance, because,
It's very important.
as budget and fund balance tend to be, they're two separate concepts, and so we need to take a look at that relationship.
Well, and before we go into that, though, I think, just from a comment standpoint, you can't do everything. So, I'm not a huge fan of the match cut at all, but yesterday, and you had a chance to think about it, yesterday you thought the going 7 to 5 was not as bad because it put money back into people's pockets, and you thought about it, you changed that, and there's nothing wrong with that, no, I'm just saying, and so no, I get it, I understand, and so the thought there is, I don't know what I'm not sure where I am on that. I don't like the match cut a whole lot. To me, I like to put money back in people's pocket thing better, because I've heard from a lot of employees that they would like to give us the retirement, that they don't like mandating the 7%. And again, so I'm still on fence, but you can't to get to if the goal is to get to an effective tax rate, and that hadn't even been stated yet, right? So I get that. So, but if the court goal is to get to the effective tax rate, you can't do a COLA and not make significant cuts. Also, it just doesn't add up. I mean, so whether it's using the across the board, reducing the COLA, not doing the transfers, I think what we probably should try to get to is which of these do we all like to begin with, maybe, it would be a better way to start, because I get that there's going to be a lot of discussion still on the ones between, but like, I like the capital transfer. I like the hiring fees. I like the Coastal Park transfer. I like the Road District 4 transfer. If Carolyn wants to give up hers, that's fine. So there could be some consensus on the ones we like. And no, and I'm just saying, I'm just weighing into you, so to let you know, I haven't made a decision on cuts, retirement, or anything else, because I'm still trying to ponder all that, but I like giving up the precinct money that we're all giving up, because I think that shows that we're willing to do that, and it's going to hurt in our precincts, but we all have to give. I like the 60-day hiring freeze. I like the Road District 4 transfer and the Coastal Park transfer, and again, thank you to Carolyn for that. That's where I am right now. I'm not sure where I am on the rest of it yet.
That's why we're here.
That's all I'm doing. Just weighing in.
Let's talk about the effect on the fund balance.
If you look at the second page that everyone likes to have the before, showing what we would estimate the values would be, based on all the assumptions we've done, including the $3 million cuts and the other cuts we have here to get to the $2,043,000 negative in expense. If we go there and as we said, our estimated currently, which is the second column, is we're estimating a fund balance of around $18,954,000, give or take when the total numbers come in. So that's our start. Now, Christian, I understand that if we do reduce our expense, our percentage of the expense our percentage of the actual expense to the budget is going to go up slightly. So I increased that from 94 to 97 because that's where I believe we would be if we lowered the expense by that much. So given the numbers we have, I'm still showing $16 million worth of fund balance, relatively 16 to 17 million, estimated wise to actual. So we're still $2 million short of where we are right now.
And that includes a $3 million.
It's everything that we've talked about.
If you went back, if the court,
That includes what, Judge?
it includes that $3 million.
It's everything that's on the first page.
So if the court said, no, we're not going to do that, but we're going to ask for $1 million in cuts, or 1% cut, then we add $2 million to that, so we're $4 million short.
Yes. Well, yes.
So without,
I just made the change. So if this is $1 million cut.
right,
that makes your estimate.
Oh, we can't live with that.
And what did you project last year was going to be our,
18.
18.
you projected last year after the budget, we passed the budget last year where we did raise taxes.
His number was 18, we ended up at 16.
You projected 18 last year and we ended up at 16.9.
Yes.
And then plus the 2 that was added because of the road district.
18,
so
where
about
we
18.9.
projected from the numbers we had, is around, he was estimating around 17, we ended up at 18. We're a little bit above where his estimates were, but yes.
Okay, hold that thought, please, for just a minute. Let's go over. I'm jumping around, that's all right. We have under tab. Let's go to tab 9 for talking purposes. And together, we have recommended to the court new positions as outlined there. One of the things that Commissioner Vaughn brought up yesterday was adding a position, dedicated position from Public Works to do nothing but jail maintenance. Do we have any idea what a position like that would fall into by category or classification? Did we look at that?
We did, and I forget what pay group, I think we said it was about
Figure 15,
the $31,000.
including benefits.
Including benefits? All right, so let's assume that one more new position would be jail maintenance, just for the hell of it. And you're talking about how much there? 31, and we add that to 181, 349, we're about 181,000,
211,
yeah, how much?
349 if we include everything above it.
Okay, so the new total would be 380, roughly, right? Now, does the court have heartburn? Oh, boy, I hate to ask that. Does the court have heartburn with any of the suggested new positions that are shown here? Plus, and I think it was a great suggestion, we do need full-time maintenance in that jail. Total of new positions of 181,000 plus or minus, which is in here where? Where is that in our?
You'll see the new positions right now, 181,
I got it.
Which tab, sorry?
I'm sorry, I'm on 9-1.
9-1 is the new position.
With 211,000, really, huh?
8-1 is right now 181, but she can put in the 211,
Yeah, you're right, I'm sorry, yeah, whatever the number is.
212.
How much is it?
Total will be 212, 349.
212, 349, okay, just hold the number. Instead of 181, it becomes 212, 349. And I will tell you, when we looked at these, we spent hours going through this, and our recommendations are made based on need, or potential need, or projected need, and I certainly support looking at adding somebody to maintain jail. So that number becomes 212. Under tab 10, salary reclassifications, comments on page 10.1, comments on page 10.2 or 10.3, please. That total becomes how much?
That's 35,770.
35,000.
And that's
All of those would be $35,000. Okay. I'm not asking you to vote on anything, Dave. Just, we're going to be getting there when we start voting. And it may very well be that something else needs to be considered. But these were considerations made on that. So 35 and 212 is 250, roughly. Right. When we started out having this discussion, Commissioners, so you'll know, the staff and I got together and I said, I'm willing to look at $250,000 in classifications and new positions. So we took that number and backed itself out, and that's how we got here. And that number was a number I thought we could probably live with in the budget. And and it doesn't really make that much difference, but it makes a lot of difference to those people who are affected. So at the next workshop, we're going to go through, I'm asking you now, we're going to go through it and say, are we okay with this? Because we got to get to a number he can give us for the budget. So right now, we're under tab 9 and tab 10, and that's where we are. In addition to your suggestions, which were very good suggestions. Now, John, you had been talking about Road District 4 yesterday. Did you get your question answered?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Carolyn, you had talked about, the main person over there. You had talked about giving up some of your money, which we show on here, we've done. Have we answered your questions to this point?
Well, I also talked about, for the maintenance worker, and I've not heard any feedback out here, on giving up maybe a couple of the secretaries, because I just don't really think we all need that many secretaries, that we could work together and share too. But I haven't heard anything from anybody on that. And also, I'd like some feedback on the maintenance worker for the jail. Judge, I appreciate you saying, it's a possibility, because it is needed. Since 2006, that report came out, and she came back again and said, we need to do that. And, I told you, I shared with you that it was 200 and something last month, I believe, calls that they had over there, so they definitely need one. So I'd like to hear from the other commissioners on those two suggestions.
Let me tell you, I'm in favor of that. I think that'd be money well spent, because if there's anything we can't afford to shut that jail down with the jail inspection.
And then you need a full-time person out there.
Yeah, we've done that, so that's a
We need
great,
two sooner or later.
that's a great suggestion. Now, you guys are going to have to get together and knock heads if you want to talk about reducing your staff. So I'm not going to get into that fight.
I guess no one's going to comment on it?
And I don't think I want to do that, Commissioner.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm still thinking.
all right. But any other things, Carol? Anything? No, I'm not cutting anybody off. You got anything else that you'd like to?
Well, I would just say this, I think that everyone needs to take a hit, not just some departments and not just the retirement. So I think that that's something, that, to me, that would be the last thing that we would have to do. So I'd like to find cuts somewhere else. And I'd also like to hear from, Brent, I appreciate what you said, that they don't want to take the 7% out, that they'd probably like more in the pockets. I wish people would maybe contact us or something and let us know if that's the case, because I'd be interested to hear that.
Okay, so I'm leading the discussion. At the present time, if the court says we're going to do a 1% or million, whatever that number is, $1 million in cuts, this number of 16,616 drops to 16 million drops to 14 million, right?
1 million cuts?
Yes, yeah, give it that number again.
Okay, with the new position we just added.
Yeah, right.
Your new estimated, your budget is going to be 11, and your estimated actual is 14,645,000.
Which is what percentage?
It is 16.3 right here.
Explain that again to me. I'm dense on this reserve stuff, because I don't understand if we pass a budget with no tax increase and it's a balanced budget on 100% revenue and 97 or 95% expenses, why we would have less of a fund balance. And I'm sure I'm just not understanding it, so help me through this.
Well, if you look at the screen that you have up on the screen now, if we look at just the column E and column H, that's your revenue to expense. Right now, they're equal. But look at the transfer in of 1.3 compared to transfer out of 9 million.
What transfer in of what?
Look at column F and column I.
But it's more of a...
So we got a lot transferred out. So if we take into consideration that particular number, we'd have right at $90 million worth of revenue on $95 million worth of expense.
It's going to balance out.
Possibly, yes, possibly.
Well, I mean, how does it not balance out if it's an accounting movement of money? Then I get that you have to. That's the truth in accounting, but the reality is we're not really going to have that deficit unless we have a catastrophe. I mean, I don't understand.
Because a lot of these expenses are fixed numbers, and through history that we've had, going back many, many years, all of our departments have done very well with their budget. We normally spend anywhere from 93 to 97% of our expenses. So we're still saying the same scenario. We expect to spend anywhere from 95 to 97% of the expenses. During that particular issue, we expect to spend $85 million worth of expense, giving everything. Based on the budget of 88, we expect to spend 85. We expect to receive 89 because we expect more money, so we've already exceeded our revenue to our expense. But then we have to function of every other area of government. We have to give money to in the parks, out of the parks, airport, fairgrounds that have their own operations. That's a fixed number. There's no adjustment to those. If we say we give them $1 million, we give them $1 million. With those particular numbers, we have 100% transferred out, so that's where because we have to fund a lot of the departments, if those numbers don't get adjusted, that's where we have the problem between revenue and expense.
In my world, if I budget 100% and I take in 97, I have an excess at the end of the year. So I don't know what governmental accounting is, because I'm not getting this, because you're telling me we're coming in at 97% expenses and 100%.
If the general fund was the only fund, you'd be correct, but general fund's not the only fund. The general fund funds the inland parks, island parks, airport, law library, the fund, the airport, fairgrounds. We have $9 million worth of expense we're funding out of the general fund. If we do the entire county, you're correct. But we're talking about just the general fund of 12 funds. And the general fund funds other funds. In the entirety, if we look at the entire budget, you'd be correct. But we have to look at just the general fund.
But the entire budget
includes airport, includes road fund, includes this. We're transferring funds.
But we're still not spending more than we get.
For the general fund, we are.
We are. General fund are, but not county-wide.
Right, but we're only talking general fund. This is just the general fund.
Right, the general fund balance.
Right.
Which drives.
So where does the, there has to be a reserve somewhere else then? I don't.
We have reserve in the road fund, we have reserve in the inland parks, we have reserve in the coastal parks, we have reserve there that they use as well, because we don't fund 100% of theirs either.
Okay, so then do we need to have the reserves in those areas like we do, or should some of those reserves revert to the county general fund?
We have, as I mentioned before, we have a reserve in our road fund of $3 million. In the last 3 years, we've used $800,000 a year of those funds. So now we're getting back to the point where we now have to give money back to the road fund because they can't continue running a negative position, which they have been. And several other funds are doing the same way. So the only way you can get money for the road fund is raise taxes, raise fees, or raise transfers from the general fund. That's the only spot where the road fund can get money.
Okay, let me ask then this. One, so the number could change based on what Mitchell Clark provides us in a week. That
Possibly,
could
yes.
change our number. Two, I still haven't had the presentation on the outsourcing of HR that I was thinking was going to have. Oh, I don't get that today as a workshop, Ed?
No, it's not on the agenda for Wednesday, Judge.
But we can discuss it.
Well, I would like to discuss it because I'd like to know the potential fiscal impact of if we outsourced HR and IT, what that would be. I mean, I asked.
We did do that.
Pardon?
We did do that.
Cool. That's what I think.
No, let me finish. What we did is we contacted urban counties. We contacted 30 counties and asked, has anybody done this so we could have a model? Nobody has done it.
So what? Offense. Don't mean that disrespectfully, but I don't really.
We're not going to go, I am not going to ask the staff to go down a rabbit trail right now.
I appreciate that, Judge, but you're asking for.
If you want to vote on it, we'll vote on it.
No, you're asking for the HR director to get a raise when I don't even think we need an HR department. No offense, I love the HR people. They're great at what they do. I don't know. That's why I asked for a fiscal analysis of this months ago. I asked for it, saying, why don't we look at if we outsource HR and we outsource IT, and there may not be, if there's a cost savings to this county by outsourcing those departments, and if there is, then that would factor into this budget. So if we don't have that, that's not fair because I asked for it, and you're right, I may get 0 votes for it, and that's life. I get 0 votes on a lot of things. Sometimes I don't even vote for my own proposals. But, I mean, I want to at least look at everything so that there's no sacred cows, so that everybody understands, that we're looking at anything and everything possible, and that's one of the things that I think we ought to look at. So how do I get that scenario run? And
When you can vote, you can make a motion.
And Ben, I totally agree with you on that. I think we ought to look at outsourcing both of
okay,
those.
so you want me to make a motion without a
Can't
physical...
vote today anyway.
I know, but what you're telling me, Judge, I think is you want me to make a motion without any physical impact. I'll do that, and if it fails, it fails. And I don't get that. I think I should be entitled to having an analysis run on something that I think should be run, but okay,
Okay,
if not, then so be it.
okay. But we did a lot of work on this, Brent,
No,
and couldn't find any county in the state of Texas had done it. Any large county. Dallas did it for a little bit, and it was a disaster, and they went back to where they are.
and that's
But
all
we-
I'm looking for, some
But
sort of...
we contacted all the major counties in Texas, and Tyner's going to brief us on that. And what our findings were that everybody, 100% of the counties contacted said, we looked at this, it won't work.
You know, not even the city does it, or school
Well, but seriously, and I'm not trying to not honor your request, but after we did all that work, got all these contacts, and every county was the same. We looked at this, it won't work. Of all the major counties in Texas, and there are 25 or 30, we made a decision, we don't need to go down a rabbit trail if everybody in Texas has tried this. And the answer comes back the same. We looked at this, we've done stuff, it won't work. And so that's why we didn't go any further.
How many counties did they contact?
25.
25.
I do have the, you want me to hand this out?
Judge, Commissioner brought in about...
Yeah, and I'm not trying to cut you off, Brent. I'm just telling you, we did a lot of work.
I have a question. He brought up races. We haven't talked about the races yet. We just talked about additional people.
We talked about new positions
Your position, that's it.
and reclassifications.
Okay, we should just read.
And this is a partial list. I think Tyler has another list. But anyway. So what we tried to do was honor your request. And what we started with was urban counties. And we said, let's go to the big counties. Let's go to the counties where they may have done this and let them tell us how they did this, because we didn't have a model. And here's their answer. And when we got this back, and you got Bexar County, Travis County, Harris County, Williamson County, Nueces, all the counties in there. And every time we talked to the people and the HR people, or the whatever it is, they said, man, we looked at this, it just won't work. And so that's why I got where I am now. We can continue this discussion, and it's a lot of work, and we can continue this discussion, but there's no model for doing this.
Well, and Judge, just so you know,
Yeah.
just again, so that everybody understands there's no sacred cows here, I've asked the Coastal Parks Board to consider looking at how, if don't know if they could, if that could run more efficiently by outsourcing coastal parks. So I'm not picking on anybody. I'm looking at anything and everything that could potentially save this county money and these taxpayers money. And so I'm taking the department that is extremely important to my precinct and saying, look, we got to look at it too. And you know what? They're open to it, and I'm not sure there's any coastal parks departments in Texas who've ever done it either, but that doesn't mean I haven't asked them to look at it. Now, they might vote and not do it because that's their board decision, but I've asked them to do it, and
Okay.
so I don't want anybody to think I'm picking on them. I'm just looking at everything and anything, so there's
Okay.
turning over every stone before I make a decision.
Got it. But that was the reasoning, okay, and I've given you my perception of the reasoning. But, so where are we? We are at 16%, assuming a $1 million cut across the board rather than 3, and the shortfall. Now, the decisions that have to be made, probably at the next workshop where we can start voting on some things, is one, contribution level, matching level. That's a big issue. That's going to have to be done. Do we do the do we do the $1 million cut? And I agree with you, there's probably $1 million that can be cut out of this county without hitting people too hard. That I'm willing, I'll look at that with you all, and you all can make a decision with 3 votes. But at the same time, we're still $4 million short. And if we could save $1 million in outsourcing something, and let me tell you why the people that you talk to about outsourcing look at this for the county. The county pay for across the board is very low. And what the outsourcing people tell you, and I went through this at the city when I was mayor, is they came in and did an exhaustive study on utilities. Some of you may have been on the council then. At the end of the day, the guys from the outsourcing came back and says, we can't save you any money. You don't pay enough money anyway. And we've got to get retirement and all that other stuff built into this. And there's no way to outsource these departments at a low level of pay that the city pays. We ran into that same concept in talking to these other counties is usually the county pay is lower than the market. And when they start bringing in outside people, and there are savings that can be done, I got it, I understand. So when we got that, we got this information, I said, we have a lot of other things we need to do. We spent some time with HR, we spent some time with IT, trying to figure out how we could do that. And that's the decision now. If the court wants to do that later, that's it. But right now, we're at least $4 million short. And even, is that right?
Yes.
4 million short of being even.
Yes.
4 million short being even in the general fund reserve balance is what you're saying. Right, we're not 4 million short on the budget, just to be clear, because... No, just to be clear.
Right.
And Judge, not to beat a dead horse, but at the same time, you know, the success we had privatizing that golf course where pay was not very high at the city has been an outstanding
Golf course
success.
is great, the museum wasn't so great.
I get it, I'm just saying, you can't, you know, to me, you shouldn't discount until you do the analysis, but you've made your position clear, and I just...
Well...
I mean, I'll move forward.
Moving on. And there'll be another day come January the 1st, and maybe that's the time to really make this thing work. I don't know. But
I love it, man.
Yeah, I love you too. In order to get even, a 1.5% tax increase, 1.5 cent tax increase gives us how much revenue?
I think it was 3-something, wasn't it?
It's a little more than that.
3 million something.
2.9 plus half of 2.9.
1.5 gives you 4.3 million.
Which would just about get us even, right? Look, there's been a lot of good work done. A lot of good thoughts. A lot of good suggestions on this budget. And I told everybody when we began this is going to be the toughest budget we did in 11 years. We've tried, and all of us together have tried to squeeze as much money as we can out of the effective tax rate. And I support the concept of using the effective tax rate. And I support Brent Chesney's position. I understand his position. And when I leave here in 3 months, or whatever that is, or this new budget in 3 months, it is incumbent upon us to not leave the county, leave you, all of you who are staying, leave you in a position that you can't manage this county out of what we have to manage it with. And I've said this before, and you're all going to say, well, he's not running in, he raised taxes. I got that. But we have to have, in my opinion, going forward, leaving you enough money to take care of catastrophic events and other things. Dale has told us that a $14 million balance will run this county about a month and a half. about a month and a half. If we can't build this fund balance, beginning to build a fund balance up this year and then the next year, some major things would happen, and you don't want to be in this position. So the suggestions you all have made are really good suggestions. Where we are is fine. Dale and Kristen, we're going to go back and redo your sheet that you showed us effects. And with everybody's permission, if we've answered your questions, I'm not cutting anybody off. If we've answered your questions on the, what day?
The 13th, Monday the 13th.
The 13th, I'm going to post that so we can vote on some things. I don't know how we'll do that, but we'll post that workshop so we can begin to take votes, okay? When do I have to tell the public what my rates are? Wednesday?
So you're gonna receive the tax rates tomorrow, just the calculations of them, and then next Wednesday, the 15th, you will be voting on proposed tax
Right,
rates.
so tomorrow at the regular court meeting, we're not voting on the rates, but we're going to be given by the auditor the effective tax rate and whatever else we have, right?
Correct.
Just for information only.
Right, you're just receiving it.
See the rates,
Okay.
so we can make sure the public for the hospital districts is.
Okay, we got that? Okay.
So can I ask you, again, the question, one out there, we said 60 days on the hiring freeze is 90 days not something to look at? I'm just throwing stuff back on.
There are exceptions to the 60. The exceptions to the 60 are the sheriff and the DA. The court has made policy in the past when we had the 60-day, we used all law enforcement, the sheriff and the jail, and the DA we accepted. Because they have things they have to do, and we approved as a court those three entities where they could immediately hire, because you don't want a big shortage in the jail, we know that. The constables have told us how short they are. And the DA has to keep staffed in order to move the courts. And if you don't staff them and you get a call from a district judge, it's no fun. So we accepted the DA and law enforcement and jail. Everybody else was subject to that. All other elected officials were subject to it. We were subject to it ourselves. And it saved, over the period of time we had it, about $600,000. And I would certainly support a 60-day freeze with the court if that's what you all want to do. 90 days, Brent, is really hard on these people. Okay. It's really hard on these people.
I'm just looking for.
Yeah, I know.
Consensus.
More savings.
So there seems to be a consensus on a few things and a lot of
I know.
indecision on other things.
I know. And I'm not trying to start a fight with anybody, but at the end of the day, we're going to have to get some votes done.
I have a question for Dale.
Yeah.
On this, on the retirement adjustment, the $814,000.
Yes, sir.
It's in the red, that means
That means savings.
savings.
At a 7%, 1.5 to 1. Or 5% and 100%, 200%.
So if we stay the way we are now, then that 840 goes away.
Correct. We need another million.
We have to add 109,000 back into the calculation. 109,000, that's what it originally was. If we stay where we're at right now, it's going to cost the county $109,000 additional expense.
Put 109,000 on my budget, put it there.
And,
Yes, across all counties.
and you gotta lose this.
Yes.
If you stay where you are, so it's $1 million.
Yes.
So instead of 4 million, it's 5.
Yeah. So like,
Yeah. And that makes it really tough. Because you can't get there with 1.5 cents.
No.
sure.
Okay? Audience? Comments? We're not feeding you anything, so you don't come talk to us? Come on up, please. I'm glad to see you. Thank you.
Let me start off by introducing myself. I'm Arnold Carpenter, Vice President of the Nueces County Sheriff's Office Association.
Yes, sir.
I'm also a sergeant in the jail division, supervisor. The few people that I have talked to, of course, it's just occurred yesterday. Really upset about the retirement. I'm really hoping and praying that we can figure out another way to not touch that retirement. I got 10 years of service here with this county. One of the main reasons why I stay here is because of that retirement. It's a great retirement. The new recruits that come in that I get to speak to, I mentioned that's one of the things that I bring up. The retirement. It's a good retirement. It's a good place to invest in. It's a good place to be at. And in the long run, in the future, we have something to look forward to. So I'm hoping that we can figure this out. I know there's a lot of numbers to crunch up. It's crazy. I've been keeping up with this for about a year now, looking into it, and it's just I know we have a lot of issues everywhere. But sometimes to make money, you got to take money. To spend money, you have to make money. So I'm just hoping that we can figure something else out other than touching our pension.
I appreciate that very much. And I know how you guys feel, and I appreciate that.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else, please? Scott? Good morning.
Morning. I just want to say thank you all very much for a couple of things. Giving us the opportunity to speak, number one. Secondly, I think it's very important with what y'all are doing here to make it a public discussion and air everything out, as transparency was alluded to earlier. In 2010, the city went through a kind of pension change, a little different than what y'all are going through right now. It's taken us not even quite 8 years to, quote, get back to normal, and we're still not there. But about 5 years ago, a councilman made a resolution that made forward progress to bring us almost back to full till. Now, obviously, we paid a price in the meantime. And so my concern with the change here is, and I believe TCDRS is very similar to what TMRS has, which is what the city has. If you make a plan change, which would be the contribution rate or the matching factor, that can have a long-term effect on an employee. So if you drop down from the 2% to the 1.5% and somebody retires this year, this could have an overall effect on their 30-plus year career that they gave to the county. And so I think that's something that needs to be looked at. Another thought also would be is if you do make that change for budget savings this year, is that you make a resolution to bring it back to where it is next year, getting through these issues. And I know budget's important, and I know the grass is always greener wherever we're at. We look at Corpus Christi, looks at San Antonio, says, man, I sure like their benefits. And I know Nueces County looks at the city and says, boy, I'd like to have their benefits. And there's nothing wrong with that, but the speaker before me alluded to it, and even y'all have. The pay is what it is with Nueces County. It's something that you look at, but the retirement and the pension is something that you hold true. And there's sometimes we have to police ourselves, and that if we take a small cut in our check, that's for the future, because you can ask any financial analyst, the future is something we do not plan for, and there's numbers out there that say less than 25% of the people hold $10,000 in their savings account for the future right now. So I think sometimes it's incumbent upon the leaders to look at all of this as a parent and take the whole picture in for the good in the way that society itself is moving forward in the future. So I thank you for this opportunity. I know y'all have a tough decision, and I ask that you just think it through in the big picture all the way around. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Folks, I appreciate the morning. I think we've had a good morning. We're going to start making decisions at our next workshop. And I ask you to give good thought to all of the comments made today. They were very good comments, and we appreciate those. Anybody got anything else? I'll see you tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Mic is off.